Everything you want to know about cremation, you'll find out on this morning's Carolina People. Coming up next, stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Horry County Government and Justice Center in historic downtown Conway. We're focused on cremations, and we're visiting with a funeral director and embalmer, Rick Neal. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in.
It's early.
It is early. It is early. All week long. We've had guests in here early. We kicked off on Monday with Roddy Dickinson, Horry County's treasurer. On Tuesday, the coroner Robert Edge was here, and he had a little baby Richard with him. Did you get to see baby Richard on the show?
Yeah, I saw that.
Earlier this
week?
week?
He must have named him after me.
He might have. Richard Francis Neal. And on Wednesday, just yesterday, Horry County's probate judge, Deirdre Edmonds, was with us. And the sheriff will be with us tomorrow, celebrating 30 years in professional law enforcement.
Is that
tomorrow.
Right?
March 21st will be 30 years in professional law enforcement.
He's almost as old as me then, isn't he?
He may have a couple of years on you, Rick. Both of y'all have kept your youth. And, of course, with all the stuff you're doing, you just got back from a big Cremation Expo up there in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Right.
How was that?
It was very informative, and that's what it is, what the expo's about, is because it's a lot of speakers that comes in. And they have different classes all day long. And it updates you on the latest things that's going on with cremation.
Right.
A lot of the suppliers are there showing cremation supplies and all that. And because cremation's just becoming so popular.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so this is North Carolina Cremation Society puts it on.
What was your most favorite class over the course? Was it principally the one that gave new ideas on new ways
more ways to serve a family?
Good.
All the different things that you can do for a family, that you can offer a family, that some of the funeral homes that's up the coast and down in Florida, they bring those people in that's done it for so long.
Sure.
And now that it's growing around here, so they give you a lot of ideas on what to do.
That is tremendous. Well, I hope you took a lot of notes and brought some of those pamphlets back. I'm sure you do back at home. You were just up there. It was last Wednesday, I guess.
Right, yes.
And Thursday in Savannah.
Yeah, me and my wife drove up on Tuesday night.
That is tremendous.
So, of course, she was working, and we didn't get to go up for the fiesta the night before. They have a golf tournament during the day on Tuesday.
Oh, no.
And then they had the fiesta of the evening,
Right.
So, but we didn't get to go for that because my wife had to work. And it was a late night trip, but it was worth it. And an early morning start. You register at 15 to 8.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it starts at 8 o'clock and goes till 4:30.
Right.
So it's an all-day thing.
Speaking of your wife, Rick, you were with us last month in mid-February, I believe February 11th, leading up to February 14th, Valentine's, which is, am I correct, your 10th anniversary?
That's right.
How was that? Did you?
Yeah, I had a great time. Had a great time. Went out that evening to dinner and stuff. And
you all did something special for your 10th anniversary?
Oh yeah, it was neat. She got. We was sitting at the restaurant, and I didn't want to carry stuff in my hands.
Yeah.
So at the jewelry store that I went to, that I bought her a necklace and some earrings, they put them in little boxes, and I crammed them down in my socks.
No. Oh,
and
come on.
They gave me a heart that was about this big around, says I love you on it, and I crammed it down this sock. So we're sitting there, and I said, well, it's anniversary. And she said, yeah, I know. She said, and it's a nice place to eat. So I said, my leg's itching. Boy, it's itching. So I pull that little heart out, and give it to her. And she said, you're just full of surprises.
Oh, yeah.
So then I said, my other leg's itching. So then when I pulled out the jewelry boxes, now then's when she got happy.
Yeah. That's when the surprises stopped. And the excitement began.
That's right.
I love it.
So,
well, that's a big celebration. You and Bonnie after 10 years. It's amazing to think of all that can happen over a 10-year period. Over the course of the 10 years, y'all actually moved from Kentucky down to Myrtle Beach and have made this y'all's home.
Yeah, and it's just, I love it here. This is home to us.
Right.
So, we just got back from Kentucky. We went up last week and we're fixing to open a funeral home over in Myrtle Beach.
Absolutely. Myrtle Beach Funeral Home and Crematory.
That's
Very
right.
exciting.
So we went up there and bought our hearse and got stuck in that snowstorm.
No.
Oh, yeah. We was up at 8:30 that morning waiting on the hearse dealership to pick us up at the motel. And when we did, at 8:30, it was just cold, 18 degrees.
Right.
And we were standing there. By 8:45, it was pouring the rain, ice everywhere. And then by 10:30, when we left, there was 3 inches of snow on top of that.
No, Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, so you and Bonnie.
It was slick.
You said, now last week you were at the Cremation Expo. The week before, you all made that trip, and to think about everything that has to go into making a trip like that.
Right.
So you drove the hearse all the way back from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Buying a hearse, that's a very specialized vehicle. Is that something you've done before?
Oh, yes.
You bought?
Yes. I've had, of course, I had my own business in Kentucky for 18 years.
That's right. For viewers who may not have seen you in the last few months, over the last 9 months, you owned your own funeral home there in Pine Knot, Kentucky for almost 2 decades.
Right. And, I love it down here at the beach so well that we just made the move.
Right.
So, like my papa used to say, to get ahead in life, you got to be like a turtle. Sometimes you got to stick your neck out.
Right. Yes, and you all definitely did by making the move down here, having lived almost your entire life in Kentucky.
Yeah. We went to school together, grew up together. So, but we love it down here, and it's home now, and that's the reason we decided to go into business for ourselves down here.
That's tremendous.
So, and we're building over next to the back gate at the Air Force Base, next to what people would know as the Purple Church.
The former Purple Church, which is now Brown, the Father's house.
Right, the Father's house now. And, of course, Pastor Howie there, he said he's excited for us to be there because, we'll be, working together and stuff. And
feeding off of each other.
That's right.
Absolutely. That's right across from the McDonald's there near the back gate of the Air Force Base, about a quarter mile south of the back gate.
Right.
Very easy to find, right there in the heart of the Socastee community.
Right. Matter of fact, we've had people that's come over and talked to us already about the funeral home, and of course, we can't do anything towards making any arrangements.
No arrangements. Absolutely. Nothing can be done. So right now, if they need something right now, you send them to another funeral home, right?
Right.
They need it right now,
but,
sure.
people's talking to us about pre-arrangements.
Sure.
And I can't even discuss pre-arrangements with them.
Can't do that yet. Yeah. So you've got to be very careful until, when would the date be? And now, the state board has gone through the approval process, right?
Right. They give us the approval to build a funeral home.
Okay.
And Ernest Adams, the one that is the inspector,
state inspector,
he's already been and looked at our place, and everything looks good. Now he'll be back when we tell him we're ready to operate.
Right.
So, and we've been ordering equipment. I mean, we have to have, you have to be able to seat so many people in the building. You have to have a hearse, and he told a funny story. He said that he went to one funeral home in South Carolina. He said, and they looked at the hearse and said, seen the hearse sitting out there, and said, so he left and went down the street. And they told him, they said, when they got down there, I said, well, did the other funeral home pass? And said, yeah. I said, well, what did they do about a hearse? And he said, well, it was sitting outside. And they said, you better go check that hearse again. So he said that he went back up there and said he told him to start the hearse and drive it around the block.
Yeah.
He wanted to ride it. And said it didn't have an engine in the hearse.
No way.
Yeah.
Not an engine at all?
Yeah, it was just sitting out there.
Wow. What would they do on a death call like that? Now, of course, that's not indicative of many funeral homes.
Right.
That's a very rare
what
example.
they use a livery service, it's called.
Sure.
And they had a hearse brought in and a pickup service, a livery service that picked up for them, And and the thing with it is, they was getting a new car when they was,
they were in the
with
process
a livery service.
Of getting a new car. Oh yeah. Well, you surely. I mean, there's a lot of great funeral home operators in the state that wouldn't try to pull something like that over.
Right. Well, see, the thing with it is, you wouldn't, if you're using a livery service. I mean, you're having a brand new automobile brought in every time you need a hearse.
Every time, sure.
And I know when I had my funeral home in Kentucky, we had our own hearse.
Right.
But we belonged to a livery service also.
Good.
That we had a van conversion that was made over into to look like a hearse, which we've bought one for our funeral home.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Because it's a lot better to go out in neighborhoods with that.
Sure.
You know, it doesn't shake people up like pulling down the street with a hearse. So that's used for mostly pickups is what's used for.
Do all funeral homes have a crematory, Rick? Obviously, having been up at the Cremation Expo last week in Greensboro, do all funeral homes have a crematory?
There's there's besides our crematory, which has just been delivered for our funeral home.
Not yet operational, yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're setting it up, but there's 5 other funeral homes here in the county that has one.
Okay.
There's Watson and Conway.
Watson and Conway, formerly Palmetto, right.
Right. And McMillan Small.
McMillan Small, which Kelsey Dickinson, Treasurer Dickinson's son, has just joined McMillan Small,
right.
who was with us earlier this week. Yeah.
And then there's Lee Funeral Home at Little River.
Good, yes.
And then Goldfinch has 2 in Myrtle Beach. They have the Beach Chapel.
Right.
And then they also own Grand Strand Funeral Home out on 707.
So they've got
and
there's
they
5
have,
crematories here in the county.
Right. They have one out there also.
Well, that's tremendous. So there's a way. So now, of course, if the other homes don't have a crematory, how do they handle cremations? Because, I mean, clearly that's a very popular thing. Almost all funeral homes offer cremations.
Yeah, they take them to one of the other funeral homes that does a lot of cremations for outside funeral homes. So so in essential, you're dealing with 2 funeral homes that, you know, when they do that.
But a loved one, when they come in, they deal with one funeral home, and even though that funeral home may use another one to cremate the body, you're still dealing with one funeral director or operator.
They deal with one funeral director.
Sure.
And then that funeral director will, you know, call and make arrangements and do everything, just like Robert Edge. No one can be cremated that you had on the show, the coroner.
Right, earlier
No
this
one
week,
can be cremated unless he gives permission.
Is that right?
Yeah.
On all deaths in the county?
On all deaths.
Including deaths in hospitals or hospice or just everywhere?
Right. Before there can be a cremation permit issued, he has to be the one to issue it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought it came through DHEC or someone else.
No.
It comes all
through
the county.
Through the coroner's office.
That's very interesting.
You have to have a burial removal transit permit, and that's when you pick up the deceased.
Right.
You have that, and you have to have the death certificate signed.
Right.
You have to have family permission signed.
Wow.
The next of kin. And if you've got kids that's in California or somewhere, see, it has to be notarized and done. You know, it's just something that you just can't call on the phone and one child when they got 5 different children and there's one parent left.
Right.
And no one else except those 5 children to make the funeral arrangements. You can't take the one that was the guardian or whatever. They have to have all 5 of those children to agree that that's to be done.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Even if
everyone has to.
How about if they have a durable power of attorney or somebody has some type of personal representative for them? You still have to get all family members to sign off on a cremation.
Yes, all the next of kin.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. Why do you think it's so rigid, Rick?
Because after cremation, there's no bringing it back.
No bringing it back.
That's right.
There is, as Robert talked about earlier in the week, there's a 24-hour waiting period no matter what.
Right.
He didn't highlight that aspect about all the family members having to sign off. But, of course, his thing is just to make sure they've gone through the proper procedures.
Well, he looks at it and to make sure that we've got everything done. And he takes our word on that you know, that this is the next of kin, the family members that takes care of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, now, I believe, Rick, you guys have recently purchased a new home close to the funeral home. Where you hope to open the funeral home.
Right. Captain's Harbor.
Great.
It's condo over on the waterway.
Oh, yeah.
In Harbor Town, back behind the new room store.
Room store over there, yeah.
Down past the airport going south.
Great location.
Then that way, if something happens in the middle of the night, where we've been living in Conway.
Right, sure.
And if something happens in the middle of the night that there's a death, you know, every minute is like waiting an hour till the funeral director gets there.
Is that right?
Because, you know, the family just, they want you to be there to tell them what the next thing that they need to do is. So this way, I'll be 5 minutes from the funeral home. So because we're about right at it, mile, maybe a mile and a half away. So,
Rick.
so that way I can just jump up out of bed and get my
Right.
clothes on and move fast and be there to take care of everything.
That's tremendous, Rick.
Yeah.
That is tremendous. Share with us a little bit about, again, I know the funeral home has not yet been approved for opening.
Right.
You're not doing any pre-planning or pre-needs just yet until you
Right.
get final sign-off from the state board or from Ernest Adams or his representative. But give viewers a sense of what they're going to see if they were visiting down the road Myrtle Beach Funeral Home and Crematory for the first time. What are they going to see when they come in? How's the facility laid out?
You mean as of today?
Well, no. Let's say if they came in July.
Oh, okay.
They came to visit in July. What are they going to see when they come in? How's the funeral home laid out?
Well, we've got, when you come in the front door, you know you've got your hallway. You have my office on the right,
Right.
secretary on the left.
Right.
You go on back, we have our casket selection room where you select your caskets, vaults, urns, whatever. All that'll be there.
That's on the right.
Yeah. Then the
Right.
next door will be the chapel area. We have a large chapel area. Like I
Right.
say, you have to seat at least 100 people in the chapel.
Every funeral home in the state has to seat at least 100 people.
That's right.
Okay.
And you have to have so many caskets, you know. And then if you go right on back the hallway, you go in and there'll be a viewing room. And what it's going to be for is if it's going to be for a beautician to fix hair or whatever.
Right.
And then also it's going to have a window in it that if someone needs to come and identify someone,
Right.
that they'll be able to stand behind a window. They don't have to be in the room where the person is.
Right.
And the curtain's open where they can see it. Have the embalming room, and then we'll have our retort. That's the cremation device. It's called a retort.
A retort.
And it'll be in a large room. And where if a family wants to be there, which nowadays a lot of people wants to go out and see the retort. They want to see the person put in. They don't, and some wants to stay there, you know, while it's being done.
Really? While the
We've had
body's being cremated.
Right. When I worked up in town at McMillan Small Funeral Home, we had families that wanted to come and different organizations that people belong to that wanted to come and be there when it's taken care of.
Sure.
So we're going to have a nice room inside,
Good.
large room for people to go in. And then we're going to have another visitation room for a family if they just want a small room instead of using the chapel, that they can
Right.
have a small private visitation or something like that.
Right.
And then we're going to have a large kitchen area. And it's Myrtle Beach Funeral Home, so it's going to be done on a beach theme.
Oh.
You know, the walls are painted an ocean blue, and the floor is, the tile is a sand color, and they're going to have, we've hired an interior decorator, and they're putting pictures around on the wall of ocean scenes and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Wheat, you know, or whatever, the sea
Sure.
oats or whatever it is.
Sure.
Stuff like that. And it'll have a place where they can have coffee and soft drinks and
Oh, exciting,
cake
Russ.
and stuff, yeah.
That's a real, and that's a critical need, surely, for families to wind down a little bit, and particularly with a big church located right next door.
Right.
If it's a service to be larger than 100 persons for the chapel, surely the ability to go to right next door or to utilize other churches in
Right,
town.
yeah.
Sure.
So I'm excited about it.
You've got to be, Rick.
So-
Now, of course, that's a number of months away before folks can come visit after you ultimately get sign-off there. But I know a lot has happened and will happen. You've had a tremendous contractor on scene as
Yeah.
well.
My son, I go down there and beat him in the head every day.
Yeah,
Say, get on
yeah.
it, get it done.
Yeah. Your son, Aaron Neal, with Southern Construction.
Yeah.
They have really got a crackerjack operation there.
Yeah.
He's also been working on the Herald, our show sponsor, as you know.
Right.
Working to make sure that the Herald kicks off properly and has a new home over there not far from the funeral home down on the end of Northgate Boulevard.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. Very exciting.
You'll be able to see it from bypass 17.
That's
where you're
exactly
at.
right, down
Yeah.
on the south end, right behind Barnhill Realty.
Right.
Right behind Barnhill Realty. Rick, in the newspaper recently, our director had pointed out that he'd seen some ads for direct burial and, of course, direct cremation. What exactly is a direct burial?
Well, it's a lot like direct cremation.
Okay.
There's no embalming. There's nothing done. We pick the person up, take them to the funeral home. Family comes in. We put them in a casket, take them directly to the cemetery. So and put them in a burial vault or a concrete box or a steel burial vault.
Okay.
Or there's all types of different burial vaults.
When you say a burial vault, so it's not just the body is going down in the casket into the ground. You mean they're actually going inside something else which is in the ground?
It's called an outer burial container.
An outer burial container, okay. Right. And it is made of what?
Well, you have them made of concrete, you have them made of fiberglass, you have them made of steel.
Okay.
Just all kinds of different things.
And why does it really matter what the casket is placed inside of when you put it in the ground?
A lot of people, once the remains taken care of, the body taken care of, they want to make sure that mom or dad or son or daughter, brother, sister, whatever, is taken care of. And that protects the casket from the elements of the earth. And it also keeps the grave from falling in. Back up in Kentucky, that we didn't have to use burial vaults.
Right.
And people would buy, and they still do, an old pine box.
Yeah.
And after 4 or 5 years, the pine box would rot away, and the grave would fall in, a foot or so, sink down. So then they have to go back and fill it up. And what this does, this keeps the grave from sinking and falling in.
The burial vault.
Right.
That's a very good point. So the vault is just like a big concrete or fiberglass or steel even sometimes box.
Yeah.
And you set the casket down inside it.
I just went to the National Funeral Directors Convention out in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wanted to go out there where we could buy a lot of our equipment.
Sure.
So, and while I was out there, I seen something I had never seen before.
What's that, Rick?
A wicker casket. They have caskets made out of wicker.
Really?
Yeah. And that was different. They have everything at the National Funeral Directors Convention.
Oh, yeah.
It was held at the Hilton out there, and they had 800 and something suppliers that was there from all over the world.
Wow.
So.
And, of course, we want to talk for a second about direct cremation, but I tell you, you've been instrumental in lining up some great guests. Charles Miles, who's with the Pierce Companies, Pierce Chemicals,
right.
Who was with us a couple of weeks ago when we were filming at South Carolina Bank and Trust. Just last week, Al Burleson was with us from Southland National Insurance Company, was with us last Friday.
And Southland National is the company that we're using to do all of our pre-needs through. So and Pierce Chemicals, that's who we're buying. Charles lives right here in Conway.
Charles lives in Conway.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And then
very buttoned down.
You've also had Jim Beaudry.
Jim Beaudry, who's going to be with us next week, who's with Batesville Casket Company, who's a great guest. And we ran out of time last a couple of months ago when we were filming him at Graves, Pools, and Spas. We just absolutely ran out of time, so we talked about getting him back in. And, of course, he's been crackerjack. He and his wife, Carol, who's the public relations director at Mercy Hospice.
Yeah.
Mercy Hospice.
Over 5 counties, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That large, yeah. Well, as you think about it, Rick, direct cremation is another very popular item. I've seen a lot of ads for folks throughout the county offering pricing for direct cremation. What exactly is direct cremation? We just got a couple of minutes.
Direct cremation. That means that we go to the place of death, pick up the deceased, take him back to the funeral home, family comes in, signs all the paperwork and does everything, and then the person has to be put in an alternative container. That's federal law.
Okay.
Now, sometimes a family could bring one in if they wanted to.
Really?
So the funeral home doesn't have to furnish it. Or they can purchase one, and sometimes, they're made out of cardboard.
Right.
Or there's like a poplar and a pine and different types of caskets.
Right.
Cremation container boxes. And, there's a press board and all different things that can be bought.
That is very important. Well, as you think back, Rick, for you, for the 30-some years now, 35-plus years, you've been in the business.
But I'm only 24 years old.
Yeah, you're only 24 now. You did it in the early life,
yeah, right.
In your previous life. What is it that's really kept you motivated and so excited about remaining active in, and of course now opening, soon to open?
Serving families.
Yeah.
You touch a lot of lives.
Right. Surely.
Touch a lot of lives.
Not just the one whose life is lost, or their immediate loved one, their spouse or
right.
child.
People comes in and talks to you, and their lowest point in life, and if you can help them and do something for them to pick them up a little bit, you know.
Right. And can you see it? You can feel it. You can see how that when they ask you, "What do I do next?" which I'm sure you probably hear oftentimes, is that one of the first questions you get?
You know, they just come in, sit down, and most people are just dumbfounded because the funeral business has been so private and so quiet, and no one ever talks about it. You know, older funeral directors just didn't talk about it.
Right.
So it's so private. And now people's advertising, people's talking more about it, and just like where I'm on the TV program here today.
Right.
And you've had, you know, the casket salesman
Right.
and people like that. People's talking about it and telling people what their options are to try to educate people, educate the public.
Right. Those are great words. Rick, I'm sorry we've run out of time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I sure do.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with funeral director and embalmer Rick Neal coming up next. You know, for most of the guests this week, we can get a critical phone number out and promote a phone number. This guy didn't even have a phone number yet, hadn't opened his business. And of course, even if he had a phone number, you wouldn't have been able to reach him. Just months ago in Las Vegas for the National Funeral Directors Association meeting, 2 weeks ago in Cincinnati, picking up a new hearse last week in Greensboro, North Carolina at the Cremation Society's Cremation Expo up there. Think about it. Soon he's going to be getting phone calls. He's going to be in town when the death call comes, and you heard him say it. The opportunity for him to be there when folks need him the most and need somebody there to help answer questions, to help hold their hands, and to help be a support mechanism. Rick Neal's doing it every day. You'll be able to see him in action after the state signs off on the opening of Myrtle Beach Funeral Home and Crematory. It's coming up. Rick Neal, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.